The Cat Who Knew a Secret Path. Once upon a time, deep in a peaceful village nestled beside a great green forest, lived a clever cat named Whiskers. With his sleek black fur and bright yellow eyes, Whiskers was known for his keen sense of direction and sharp wit. While other animals roamed only the outskirts of the woods, Whiskers knew the secret paths hidden beneath the thick canopy, winding through the trees like whispers of the wind. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Whiskers stretched lazily on the warm cobblestone road of the village. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers. It was the perfect time for an evening stroll. As he padded toward the forest, something unusual caught his sharp ears. A soft whimpering sound, faint but desperate. Whiskers stopped in his tracks, his tail flicking in curiosity. The sound came from deeper within the woods, near the edge of the trees where the shadows grew longer. Carefully, he stepped onto the forest floor, his paws barely making a sound as he followed the whimpers. The further he went, the clearer the cries became, until, beneath the low branches of a towering oak tree, he spotted a small bundle of fur. A tiny golden brown puppy sat shivering, his floppy ears drooping and his eyes filled with worry. "Are you lost?" Whiskers asked gently, his voice calm and reassuring. The puppy sniffled and looked up with wide, tear-filled eyes. I can't find my way home," he whimpered. "I was chasing a butterfly, and I didn't realize how far I had gone. Now I don't know where I am." Whiskers tilted his head thoughtfully. The puppy's scent was unfamiliar, meaning he must have come from a different part of the village or perhaps a farm nearby. The forest could be tricky for those who didn't know its paths. Twisting trails, towering trees, and thick undergrowth made it easy to get lost. "What's your name, little one?" Whiskers asked. "Buddy," the puppy said, his tail wagging slightly at the kindness in Whiskers' voice. "Well, buddy," Whiskers said with a confident nod, "you're in luck. I know a secret path through the forest. If we follow it, I'm sure we'll find our way to your home." Buddy's eyes brightened with hope, but he still hesitated. "What if we get lost?" Whiskers chuckled, flicking his tail. "I never get lost. Trust me, I've walked these paths more times than I can count." Buddy took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, I trust you." With that, Whiskers turned and led the way, stepping carefully through the underbrush. Buddy followed close behind, his paws crunching the fallen leaves. The trees stretched tall above them, their branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. As they walked, Buddy couldn't help but glance around nervously. The forest, which had once seemed so exciting when he was chasing the butterfly, now felt vast and mysterious. Shadows danced between the trunks, and unfamiliar sounds filled the air. The rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the chirping of unseen crickets. Sensing Buddy's unease, Whiskers spoke in a soothing voice. "The forest isn't as scary as it seems. It's full of friends, if you know where to look." "Friends?" Buddy asked, tilting his head. Whiskers nodded. "Oh yes, some are small and quiet, some glow in the dark, and some are covered in tiny spikes." Buddy's ears perked up in curiosity. "Spikes? That doesn't sound friendly." Whiskers chuckled. "They're much kinder than they look. You'll see." The puppy's worry slowly melted away as he listened to Whiskers. He focused on following the cat's sure-footed steps, stepping over roots and ducking beneath low branches. Though he was still far from home, for the first time since he had gotten lost, he didn't feel so alone. As the last golden light of the setting sun faded, the forest grew darker, But Whiskers showed no sign of worry. "We'll follow the secret path," he said confidently. "And if we need a little help, I know just who to call." Buddy's tail gave a hopeful wag as he trotted beside his new friend, ready to see what lay ahead. Whiskers moved gracefully through the forest, his tail swaying with each step. The path he followed was narrow and hidden beneath the thick canopy, untouched by the usual wanderers of the woods. Buddy, still nervous, but trusting his new friend, stayed close behind, his small paws crunching over fallen leaves. As the last light of day faded, the shadows stretched and the air grew cooler. Buddy's ears twitched at every rustle and chirp. The darkening forest seemed vast and unfamiliar, a maze of towering trees and twisting roots. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Buddy asked, his voice small. Whiskers glanced back, his golden eyes glinting in the dim light. "Positive. This is a secret path, one that only I know. It will lead us exactly where we need to go." Buddy gulped and tried to be brave. "How do you know it so well?" Whiskers chuckled. "I've been exploring this forest since I was a kitten. I know every shortcut, every hiding spot, and every friendly creature that lives here." As they walked deeper into the woods, the trees thickened, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked most of the sky. The darkness felt heavier, but Whiskers pressed on confidently. Suddenly, Buddy tripped over a hidden root and tumbled forward with a small yelp. "Ow!" he whimpered, rubbing his nose with his paw. Whiskers turned back and helped him up with a gentle nudge. "You have to watch your step, little one. The forest has many surprises." Buddy sighed. "I wish I had paws as quiet and light as yours." Whiskers smirked. "It comes with practice. You just have to learn to trust the ground beneath you." As they continued, the forest around them began to change. The air felt lighter, and a faint glow shimmered ahead. Tiny golden lights flickered between the trees, like floating stars moving in the night. Buddy gasped. "What's that?" Whiskers smiled. "Fireflies." Dozens of fireflies drifted around them, their tiny bodies pulsing with warm light. They danced through the air, forming little glowing trails. One hovered close to Buddy's nose, making him giggle as he tried to follow its light. "They're beautiful," Buddy whispered in awe. "They also make great guides," Whiskers said. "They'll help light our way." With the fireflies leading them, the secret path became clearer. The dim forest seemed less frightening, and Buddy felt safer with their gentle glow surrounding him. As they walked, Buddy's tail wagged slightly. "Maybe the forest isn't so scary after all," Whiskers purred in amusement. "It's only scary when you don't know it. But when you do, you see that it's full of friends." Just as he finished speaking, a soft rustling came from the bushes ahead. Buddy froze, his ears perking up. "What was that?" Whiskers didn't seem worried. Instead, he stepped forward calmly and called out, "Is that you, hedgehog family?" A moment later, 3 small hedgehogs waddled out from the underbrush, their tiny eyes blinking sleepily. The largest one, a wise-looking hedgehog with a coat of soft brown spines, sniffed the air and smiled. "Whiskers, what brings you through the forest at this hour?" Whiskers flicked his tail toward Buddy. "This little one got lost. We're following the secret path to bring him home." The hedgehog nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, the secret path. A wise choice." He turned to Buddy with a kind smile. "Don't worry, young pup. You're in good paws with Whiskers." Buddy smiled shyly. "Thank you." The smallest hedgehog, barely bigger than a pine cone, wiggled his nose. Are you scared? Buddy hesitated, but then shook his head. Not as much as before. Whiskers said the forest is full of friends, and I think he's right. The hedgehog family nodded in agreement. A journey is always easier with friends, the eldest hedgehog said. If you ever find yourself lost again, just remember, look for the fireflies, listen for the wind, and trust those who offer kindness. Buddy nodded, taking the advice to heart. I will. The hedgehogs pointed their little snouts toward a gap in the trees. That way is the safest path to the village. Whiskers bowed his head gratefully. Thank you, as always. As they continued on their journey, Buddy felt lighter, his fear fading with each step. He had entered the forest alone and afraid, but now he was surrounded by glowing fireflies, wise hedgehogs, and a clever cat who knew the way. And for the first time since he had gotten lost, Buddy believed he would find his way home. With the fireflies dancing around them and the hedgehog's guidance fresh in their minds, Whiskers and Buddy continued along the secret path. The deeper they went, the more the forest seemed alive with friendly sounds, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, and the gentle hum of insects. The once scary woods now felt almost magical. Buddy, trotting beside Whiskers, looked around in awe. I never knew the forest could be so full of life, he said, his tail wagging slightly. Whiskers purred in amusement. That's because most don't take the time to notice. The forest is a world of its own, full of creatures who know its secrets. Just as he finished speaking, the fireflies ahead suddenly flickered and scattered. Buddy stopped, his ears perking up. Why did they fly away? Whiskers narrowed his eyes. Something's coming. A moment later, a gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying with it the soft sound of shuffling paws. From behind a cluster of bushes, a figure emerged, tall and shadowy in the dim light. Buddy tensed, his fur standing on end. Then, as the moonlight broke through the treetops, the figure became clear, a majestic old fox with a coat of fiery red and eyes that gleamed with wisdom. Ah, Whiskers, the fox said, his voice smooth like flowing water. I wondered when you might pass through here. Whiskers dipped his head respectfully. Good evening, Elder Fox. We're on a journey to return Buddy to his home. The fox's sharp eyes flicked to the puppy. Lost, were you? Buddy nodded hesitantly. Yes, sir, but Whiskers is helping me find my way. Elder Fox let out a small chuckle. You're in good paws, then. Whiskers is the only one who truly knows these secret trails. His gaze turned serious. But be mindful, little one. The forest is kind, but it is also full of challenges. It rewards those who are brave and trust in their friends. Buddy took in the fox's words, feeling a bit more confident. I'll remember that. Elder Fox nodded approvingly before stepping aside. Then go on. You're close now. As Whiskers and Buddy continued forward, Buddy couldn't help but glance back at the wise fox, who disappeared silently into the trees. Does he always speak in riddles? Buddy asked. Whiskers chuckled. That's just his way, but his words always hold truth. The path grew narrower, winding between thick bushes and towering ferns. Buddy had to squeeze through some of the smaller gaps, but Whiskers moved through with ease, his body gliding like a shadow. Then, as they stepped into a clearing, Buddy gasped. The trees around them twinkled with tiny golden lights. Not fireflies, but glowing mushrooms sprouting from the bark. The soft blue and green glow cast a dreamlike aura over the area. The air was cool, and a small brook trickled nearby, reflecting the glow in shimmering ripples. Wow, Buddy whispered. It's beautiful. Whiskers nodded. This is one of the forest's hidden places, a place where only a few have walked. Buddy stepped forward carefully, marveling at the glowing surroundings. As he sniffed the air, he caught a familiar scent, one that made his heart skip. His ears perked. "Whiskers! I smell something I know." Whiskers' eyes glimmered. "Then we're close." Excited, Buddy picked up his pace, his paws moving faster over the forest floor. The path widened slightly, and in the distance, he could see the first glimpse of open land beyond the trees. The scent grew stronger: fresh grass, warm straw, and the faintest hint of something delicious. It smelled like home. "We're almost there," Buddy yipped, bounding ahead. Whiskers followed with a satisfied smile. "Told you I'd get you home." As they neared the edge of the forest, Buddy's tail wagged uncontrollably. His heart pounded with excitement. Just a little further, and he would be back where he belonged. Buddy raced forward, his little paws kicking up soft earth as he neared the edge of the forest. The scent of home grew stronger with every step. The towering trees began to thin, and patches of golden light stretched across the path ahead. Whiskers, moving at a steady pace behind him, watched with a knowing smile. As Buddy burst through the last row of trees, he skidded to a stop at the top of a gentle hill. Below him lay a familiar sight: a cozy farmhouse with a red roof, a wooden fence enclosing a lush green yard, and a small stone path leading to the front door. The setting sun cast a warm glow over the land, making everything look even more inviting. "That's it!" Buddy barked excitedly. "That's my home!" Whiskers padded up beside him, his tail flicking. "Told you we'd find it," he said with a purr. Buddy turned to his friend, his eyes shining with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Whiskers. Thank you for guiding me." Whiskers gave a small nod. "You were braver than you thought, Buddy. You just needed a little help to see it." Just then, a voice called out from the farmhouse. "Buddy? Buddy, is that you?" Buddy's ears perked up, and he turned toward the sound. A young girl, no more than 10, stood on the porch, her hands cupped around her mouth. Her eyes widened as she recognized the little puppy on the hill. "Buddy!" she cried, dashing down the steps and across the yard. Without hesitation, Buddy bolted down the hill, his heart soaring with joy. As he reached the girl, she scooped him up into her arms, hugging him tightly. "Oh, Buddy! We were so worried! Where have you been?" she asked, burying her face in his fur. Buddy let out a happy bark, his tail wagging furiously. He couldn't explain everything that had happened, but it didn't matter. He was home, safe in the arms of the one who loved him most. As the girl carried him toward the house, Buddy looked over her shoulder and saw Whiskers watching from the top of the hill. The clever cat sat tall, his golden eyes filled with quiet satisfaction. Buddy wiggled in the girl's arms and let out a small whimper. He didn't want to leave his friend without a proper goodbye. The girl, noticing his sudden movement, followed his gaze and spotted the cat on the hill. "Who's that?" she asked. Whiskers flicked his tail, then turned and padded back toward the trees, disappearing into the forest. Buddy watched until he was out of sight, then gave a soft sigh. He knew Whiskers wouldn't stay. He belonged to the secret paths of the woods. But deep in his heart, he hoped they would meet again. That night, as Buddy lay curled up in his warm bed, he thought about the journey he had taken. The dark forest, the glowing fireflies, the wise hedgehogs, and the mysterious elder fox. And most of all, he thought about Whiskers, the clever cat who had guided him home. He had learned that the forest wasn't just a place of shadows and unknown dangers. It was also a place of wonder, kindness, and unexpected friendships. As his eyes grew heavy, Buddy whispered to himself, "I'll never be afraid of the forest again." And with that thought, he drifted off to sleep, dreaming of glowing trails and secret paths, knowing that no matter where he went, he would always find his way home. The moral of the story: sometimes all we need is a little guidance to find our way. With courage, kindness, and trust in our friends, even the most unfamiliar paths can lead us home.